Contrary to popular belief, stress goes far beyond mental stress. It also includes physical and physiological stress. For example, a plant can be under stress in a drought without water. Your favorite Barbie doll encounters stress when your little brother rips her head off, or our body is under stress if we break a bone or don't sleep enough. Stress is everywhere. These things do not need a mindset or neural pathways to be under stress. In other words, you don't have to emotionally or mentally feel stress for your body to be stressed. Stress is not all in your head. It's crucial to understand that HPA axis dysfunction or stress can be caused by several aspects of our modern lifestyle. When we typically think of stress, we oftentimes think about our emotions, and those definitely are big contributors. But stress is actually most broadly defined as any event in which environmental demands, internal demands, or both tax or exceed the adaptive resources of an individual. Any event that causes allostatic load or just a heavy load or stressor doesn't have to be psychological or emotional. So, for example, you can be beautiful, wealthy, and lying on a beach in Costa Rica without any cares in the world, but can still be under stress if you have a gut condition like SIBO, iron deficiency anemia, and undiagnosed gluten or histamine intolerance. Check out some of the most common stressors we encounter on a daily basis, oftentimes without recognizing them as stressors. Some physical examples may be staring at blue light on screens late at night, getting less than 7 hours of sleep, overtraining or sedentary lifestyles, lack of fresh air and nature in the day, taking antibiotics or oral birth control long term, artificial sweeteners, high coffee consumption, and more. Some mental or emotional stressors you may be aware of are things like relationship stress and financial stress, isolation, PTSD or trauma, stress over food and diets, feeling burned out, and just lack of play and fun or community, negative news, and emotional eating. Although not all stress is bad and our bodies are hardwired to deal with stress in the wild, when we encounter too much stress without the resources or ability to recover from that stress is when imbalance and high cortisol, your stress hormone, happens. Do any of these sound familiar? Constipation, bloating, IBS, anxiety, depression, skin conditions, autoimmune disease, thyroid issues, low libido? These are all common side effects of too much stress. The main theme of them all? Disease and imbalances arise from dis-ease in our body and our lives. Repeat. Dis-ease causes disease and health imbalances. When stress exceeds our ability to recover, the body cannot keep up with the allostatic load. Now here's a disclaimer for you. Not all stress is bad. Stress is an inevitable part of life. In fact, our stress response system is what helps us finish our paper at 3 a.m. in the night before it's due, or get over a hard breakup. Stress often works for you, not against you. It's sort of like what happens if you're lifting weights. Say you load the barbell with a couple 25-pound bumper plates to knock out some deadlifts. Then you load the barbell again with 2 more bumper plates and knock out some more deadlifts. It's a little bit heavier, but manageable. However, what happens if you keep loading and loading and loading that barbell with weights? Eventually, you may hit a point where you can't lift the weights any longer, at least with good form. Then what happens if you keep fighting to lift those weights, say to knock out 3 rounds of 10 deadlifts within a 5-minute time frame? You're sweating, your back is rounding, you're trying and trying and trying. Chances are you either get hurt or you max out. Your body can't take it. What was once a positive stressor, weight to help you get stronger, has now become a negative stressor, a stressor that gives you back problems or becomes impossible to lift. Stress works the exact same way. It can be positive and we can handle some of it, but when it exceeds our capability to recover, it becomes negative. So too much stress is not good. In the face of unrelenting, ongoing stress, we can lose our ability to adapt or recover. This is called chronic stress or HPA axis dysregulation, the kind of stress that persists. Here are some HPA axis basics. Your HPA axis is the term given for the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis that is your body's central stress response system. The HPA axis is responsible both for how your body deals with stress as well as keeping your body balanced and working like it should. For example, running from a bear. If a bear is chasing you, your HPA axis kicks into high gear, producing hormones like cortisol and adrenaline to run faster along with the fight or flight response, such as shortness of breath and a racing heart. Cortisol levels, our stress hormones, go up so our body is able to fight and flee from the stress. When we escape the bear, our HPA axis brings cortisol and adrenaline levels back down to normal, like a nice bell curve. The HPA axis comes back to balance, and this is known as rest and digest mode or parasympathetic mode, which is characterized by things like muscle relaxation, decreased blood pressure and heart rate, pupillary constriction, getting smaller, increased saliva and digestive enzymes, better ability to digest food, more energy, and a strong immune system. All is well again, at least until the next bear comes. Unfortunately, in modern day, our rest and digest mode does not last long. Most of us find ourselves in continual fight or flight activation, eventually leading to a more long-term stress response. Some examples of a long-term stress response or body imbalance may include things like blood sugar imbalances, reduced thyroid hormones or hypothyroidism, decreased growth hormone and catabolic muscle, impaired immunity, sex hormone imbalances, increased inflammation, water retention and inflammation in your body, and vagus nerve disruption, causing things like shortness of breath, constipation and digestion issues, and mood imbalances. Chronic dieting is a great example that can send your body over the edge. Unfortunately, yo-yo and fad dieting is a norm in our society. First, fats were bad and carbs were good. Then carbs were bad and fat was good. You read that you should be eating 1,200 or 1,600 calories and burning at least 500 calories in your Orange Theory workout. You try the intermittent fasting thing, only to reward yourself with an entire day's worth of food in one sitting. You stick to only lean proteins and greens during the day, but come nighttime you're ravenous. You're completely out of touch with your body's cues. Your body seems to hold on to weight no matter what you do, or your blood sugar is all over the place and PMS sucks during the time of the month. Your immune system goes down every spring. This long-term stress response system leads to HPA axis dysregulation, aka chronic stress. With little relief from the constant pounding and stress, such as the chronic dieting, your HPA axis is challenged to balance cortisol, primarily because your body thinks you're running from that same bear at all times. The result? You ultimately don't feel like yourself, left to cope with a host of ailments or less than ideal health imbalances. So how do you know what your cortisol levels are doing inside or where your hormones are at? As we've discussed, it's not always easy to recognize it when you're under stress. A really great way to do this at home, though, is to get back to our breathing exercise from our first weeks. Time the number of breaths you take in 1 minute. Anything over 5 to 7 deep, rich, full breaths indicates fight or flight mode or stress. Another great way to measure cortisol and hormone levels in clinical practice is the Dutch cortisol hormone test, an at-home urine saliva test that helps you assess what your cortisol patterns are and if your body is riding a roller coaster or running from a bear during the day. It's best to work with a practitioner for this one so you can interpret it and you can get next steps. The bottom line is you are a human being, not a human doing. Sometimes we forget this. In fact, 8 in 10 Americans report being stressed out or exhausted on a regular basis, on the go, overwhelmed or feeling like they don't have enough time to do it all in a day. Are you packing your day with more doing, or are you filling your day with more being, being in the moment, and doing things that enrich and fulfill your life. This week in your project, you are going to identify the top stressors in your life with a stress scavenger hunt. I want to give you a challenge of just saying no to something that's draining you so you can say yes to yourself and less stress in your life.